Hello, and welcome to Lead, Learn, Connect, where we explore the worlds of training and coaching. I'm your host, Alan Krieger. On this show, we talk about not just the how of helping others grow, but the behind-the-scenes work of building a successful business, overcoming challenges, and staying connected to what's really important. My guest today is Dennis McIntee, a trainer and coach from Greenville, South Carolina. He focuses on developing leaders and has an approach that he calls drama-free. We'll hear more about that in just a minute. Whether you're a new coach, a seasoned facilitator, or just curious about what it takes to thrive in this world, this episode is for you. Welcome, Dennis.
Hey, Alan, I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to talking with you about it. So let's start right off with drama-free. You talked about that as you have a process called drama-free, and as we talked about earlier offline, it sounds like it deals with emotions, but you would think drama-free would just deal with logic. So tell me a little bit more about drama-free.
What's fascinating, Alan, like as soon as I say drama-free, everybody wants it, but very few people even know what it means. Right? It's just fascinating. I've never met anybody say, "Oh, I don't want that." Right? So it's sort of this process where when you think about drama, okay, I'm talking about any time somebody plays a victim, right? And all victimhood comes out of choice poverty. It's like, oh, I don't have a choice, right? Or I play the blamer, right? So if I'm complaining about my team or complaining about my circumstances, I'm in drama right now, right? And you can complain or you can create. You just can't do both at the same time. You sort of get to choose. So victim, blamer. And then there's a third component that we call being the rescuer, right? And being the rescuer is when managers are doing the work of the person they're supposed to be managing, right? I'm doing my work, I'm doing your work, and then I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm irritated, right? And sort of the lies that we tell ourselves are, oh, it's just easier. I'm just going to do it myself. Or it's going to take me 5 minutes, or they always get it wrong anyways, and I got to come back behind them and fix it. And right. So we sort of step in. And the challenge is that when leaders and managers play a rescuer role, they really create a lot of victims. So there's this entire cycle of drama that happens. And so we are on a mission to take the drama out. We are totally, that is our passion. That is our mission. It looks different in different places. And most of this really comes out of emotions. It's not necessarily to be emotionless, because that's not even real, right? We're human beings, not human doings. But it's what to do with these emotions. Like, how can you make them serve you? See, because I think things like frustration, anger, irritation, annoyances, they're actually just information, and they can actually be useful if you know what to do with them. And the problem is many people don't know what to do with the energy of a frustration or irritation. They just take that energy and they complain. So,
Okay.
but a lot of our processes really help you take that energy and go create. So when I say drama free, I'm not necessarily saying we're going to be robots, but it's what to do with the emotions and how do you make them useful, not useless.
So can you give an example of how you'd help a leader funnel some complaining and victim statements that someone is feeding them?
Right. Yeah. Perfect. So one tool that we have, we call it the frustration reducer, and you can use this for any kind of bother, irritation, annoyances. Right. So Ellen, let me just ask you real quick: frustration, good or bad?
Frustration, unpleasant.
Okay, unpleasant, right? Okay, so my feeling is that frustration, irritation, and annoyances are actually simply good, because all emotion is just information. It's just
Right.
giving me information, right? But the only reason that you're frustrated, you want to know what it is, Alan, when you think about it? There's only one reason that you're frustrated about things, is that you care, right?
Okay, frustration shows caring.
Shows care, right? There's things in
Okay.
my life that I'm not frustrated about. I mean, don't hate on me, but I don't get frustrated about a dirty car. I probably should, all right,
Yeah.
maybe, but I don't. You know how many times I take the car to the car wash? Zero. My wife takes the car to the car wash all the time. So frustration just shows you care. And the blessing of a frustration is it gives you energy. And you can take that energy, and some people take that energy and they complain. But here's a way to take that same energy and create. So it's sort of a 5-step quick tool that we've developed where we go, okay, what are you frustrated about right now? And then we want to know why. Why are you so frustrated? Because the problem is, Ellen, is I'm frustrated, okay? And I bring my frustration to you, right? But can you fix my frustration? No, it's mine. Right. And a lot of times, here's what happens. I'm frustrated and go, well, the organization should blank. Well, my boss should blank, blank, blank. And I just took this frustration and I just put it somewhere else. And a lot of people, they don't own their frustrations, right? Because they walk around, because only you know what you're frustrated about. Okay. And so it's this idea. We want to know why you're frustrated. And then we ask you simply, hey, how acute is the pain? Right. Scale 1 to 5, 5 being like super painful, 0, right? So some people say, oh, it's a 3. Okay. Fourth magic question is simply, what do you want? Now, there's something amazing that happens when you ask people, what do you want? First of all, about half the time, people can't even answer the question.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? 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 And they look at me like a deer in the headlights. And I always want to say, hey, if you don't know what you want, how the heck can I help? Right? They just know they're frustrated. And it's simply, what do you want? And then the fifth question in this tool is simply, what's one thing you can do over the next, 48 hours, week, 2 weeks, to either lower the acuity of the frustration or completely eliminate it. And it is this process of creating action, because I'm going to tell you, the problems that you're frustrated about, that's not really the first problem to solve. The first problem to solve is you're frustrated about the problem. And when you're frustrated and annoyed, you go into this sort of paralyzed place where you just don't know what to do. And so it is this 5-step process. And we call these things thinking tools. So we have about 100 thinking tools. That's just an example of one that we would just walk through a group. And here's what's really interesting, Alan. Once you get the tool, it's yours forever. Right? You can walk through it. You can, and so, yeah, that's sort of an example of like, hey, because here's the thing. I think you can frustrate your way to productivity. I think you totally, yeah, because
let's say a situation I dealt with a lot when I did leadership training with mid-level managers. Is I would give them some strategies. They say, "This is great. I wish my boss would do it."
Yes,
he won't do it.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And so is the answer then that they just have to learn to live with the boss not doing it and do it themselves, or is it the answer that they try to coach up and get their boss to change?
You know what? That's a great question, and it's totally nuanced by situation, right? Because sometimes you have to be able to detach from the outcome. A lot of my problems are I haven't detached from the outcome, but yet I'm attaching to behaviors. Because people go into this victimhood when they're frustrated, and all victimhood comes out of choice poverty, and that's a total lie. It's like everybody is choice abundant. You are ridiculously in charge of your choices. And so that we have about 15 different strategies on coaching up. We have about 10 strategies on how to detach from outcomes, right? But still stay emotionally engaged. That's the key, right? That's the nuance, right? Is that how do you detach from outcomes, but still stay emotionally engaged? And so, and really, that's a great question. And really, it kind of depends on like, how really important is it to you, right? How vital, and only you know that answer. Only you know that. But, and I tell people all the time, oh, go ahead.
Let's switch the situation. Now we have talk about the leader, who has people coming and complaining all the time.
Yeah.
So what tools do you give the leader to kind of? They're not necessarily frustrated by their people, but they don't want their people to be frustrated and quit, right? They want them to be happier. Well, and the people are complaining.
Yeah. So, well, here's a key strategy. Okay, is that you cannot coach emotion. People try to coach emotion all the time, right? I'm frustrated, so I'm trying to make you not frustrated. What the heck, right? Alan, for example, okay, you're frustrated, and you come to me, and I say, Alan, don't be frustrated. You shouldn't be frustrated. This is going good. This is going good. Right?
You can't direct emotion. I'll agree with that.
But here's the thing. Emotion is information. So when you, and part of the problem is, and I don't know if you've seen this, I've never seen it yet, but if you've seen it, you let me know, is that what I've discovered is that people never typically bring me a problem without an emotion attached to it. Isn't there always an emotion, right? Yep. And then what's even crazier is they typically give me the emotion before they give me the problem. I'm so irritated, and then I get the problem. I'm so mad, and I get the problem, right? Okay. So the first thing is like, how do you separate that? And here's a great simple question, right? So I tell leaders all the time, stop coaching feeling. But so what do you coach then? Right? So your feelings are simply an indication of what you think. So I'm frustrated. Okay, so you're frustrated because you think what? Right? You're frustrated, you're irritated, you're annoyed because you think what? Now, whatever that answer is, Alan, coach that all day long. I want to coach thinking, but and I tell people all the time, I am totally great with you being frustrated, irritated, annoyed. I'm great.
Mhm.
In fact, think about this. If frustration means you care, then there should always be some level of irritation, annoyances. I told my team the other week, it's like, hey, if you ever show up to work and you're just like, you don't have any annoyances, any irritations, any bothers, you probably need to find another place to work, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it just means when you don't, it's like, oh, I just don't even care. I don't even care, whatever, right? And you just sort of disengage. So I'm totally great with any feeling you have, right? And I let you stay frustrated, irritated, annoyed, but there are standards of behavior, right? I'm okay with you being frustrated, but you can't complain, can't criticize, can't backbite, can't gossip. Or I got standards of behavior. I'm a coach behaviors, but I'm not going to try to change how you feel. This is a great example. Literally, I have a team member, and we put her in charge of accounts receivable and switched some duties around. And after about 3 months, Alan, she came to me. She said, Dennis, I am so frustrated, so irritated. She goes, this client doesn't pay, and this and this and this. And I said, oh, welcome to the party. I've been frustrated for years. I love somebody else is here with me. Yes, let's come up with a solution. Right. So it's almost like we kind of celebrate irritations and annoyances, but we don't let them sit. I call it using friction as fuel. So every time you feel friction, it is simply fuel to make a change. And so it's actually a blessing. It's actually helpful. But if
Okay.
you know what to do with it. So anytime I went through this thing with one team member where they were asking me this question about finances, and I answered it. And gosh, I told you about 10 minutes later, I was like, is icky, sticky. What? And I thought, okay, how do I create a scenario where I never answer that question ever again? Right. And we created a little system where I never have to ever answer that question ever again. Right. And so it's like, I'm glad I had that friction because it actually fueled me, to do something with
Create a
it. So
solution.
these,
Okay. Yeah.
these are all drama-free techniques. So it's not necessarily just being a robot, right? Because you got to have the emotion, right? Emotion. It's like, I never do anything until I get emotional, right? My weight never changed until I just got pissed off. I'm like, yes, that's right. And so, but you got to know what to do with it. So I think that's the key thing, is that we teach people what to do with these things.
Yeah. Another thing you mentioned we talked before is that you focus on grief and trauma, which sounds like emotions.
Well, it does. Well, and when we say grief, okay, so it's any kind of disappointment, loss, like you didn't hit a goal, a team member didn't meet any missed expectation, right? Anything. And the problem is grief is kind of a big word. Let's use loss or missed expectation. Um, but at its core, here's what's very powerful about grief is that it is a compounding emotion, which means if you don't have a way to process it through and get it out, it sort of is like you're carrying this bag with like 1,000 rocks in it. Right. And the problem a lot of times that people say is like, oh, we missed a goal. All right, let's just rub some dirt in it. Let's just move on. Okay, we're just going to move on. Just forget about it. Just move on. The problem is it gets stored in your backpack. Right. And one rock is fine to carry. But the challenge is people got thousands of rocks, and then, they don't have confidence. They procrastinate. Right? Because you're procrastinating because you don't feel confident most of the time. You're just not committed, and you don't want to make a commitment because you have all this past history of loss. So it is simply a way to very quickly process through disappointment and missed expectations so that, boom, you get the learning. Because the challenge is when you're emotional about it, you can't learn anything about it.
Okay.
And so it's really this process of how do you separate so that you can really look at it and analyze it and really learn. Because most time people that just say, well, just get over it, we're rub some dirt in it, just move on. You don't learn from it. And then you just repeat it. It's horrible.
So there is some coaching around emotions to help process it and clear out the rocks.
Yeah.
And
And we actually, now we don't teach people to be life coaches or psychotherapists. But we do help leaders like with some skills on how to help people process through it very quickly. Right. Where it turns these 45-minute conversations into 5-minute coaching sessions.
yep.
Right. Instead of
Okay.
this 45-minute, like, oh my gosh, I don't know what they're talking about. And I just spent an hour trying to, and we teach them how to take that hour conversation and make it a 10-minute conversation, and how to direct that, and, with some skills and some practical tools. But because the problem a lot of times, and I've seen this, is that people say, I want people to think at a higher level. Well, and then you give them no process to think. You give them no system to move their thinking up. And so really, that's why we call these things thinking tools,
Mhm.
because it elevates your thinking. But you don't have a process. If you don't have a process for it, how do you even do that? Right. So you got to have some kind of process.
So this sounds a lot of one-on-one working. You also work in teams, and how do you
We
do with a
yeah,
team session with this?
we do a lot of, we like to do it. It's honestly in a workshop setting. And the reason it works best in a workshop setting is because you learn from other people. And
Hmm.
so we'll process through like situations with teams, and we'll do it in a group setting so that everybody can learn. And then we do have, quite a few executive coaches that step in and help people on a one-on-one basis. But it's this workshop coaching model where there's this information and emotional piece to it that sort of is attached together. Because the problem a lot of times with leadership training, I think, is that it just becomes a lot of how to's. Okay, here's
Hmm.
how you have crucial conversations. Here's how you do accountability. Here's how you do, whatever. Okay. But Alan, the challenge is, if how to's were enough, if all you ever needed were how to's, we would all be skinny, we would all be rich, and we would all be happy. Right? Like, how many diet books are there in the world?
Yeah.
Right? I don't need
Okay.
another diet book. Right? It's a little bit like, it's like, eat a little less, exercise a little more. What's the problem? I don't want to. I don't want to. It's not logical. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I want the second bowl of ice cream. I know I shouldn't have. I know logically it's not good for me, but what's the problem? Right? I eat a piece of candy. I say I'm going to eat one piece of candy, and then I eat 10 pieces of candy. And I know I'm not supposed. I know logically yes, but what's the problem? It's all emotional.
Yep.
And so if you don't have a process really in your leadership training to really help step into that and teach people that, and so that's what we're really passionate about.
And it's a once and done. Somebody comes in, I'm really frustrated, I'm upset, I've got carrying this bag of rocks, and the leader says, okay, I hear your frustration and what's behind it, and let's move. And 5 minutes later, we're into problem solving. Or some employees kind of hold on to that bag of rocks.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's ways to teach them how to let go of those bag of rocks, right?
Okay.
And really, it's sort of why, Alan. I mean, change is in a process, not a one-time event,
Mm-hmm.
right? Change is a process, not a one-time event. So most of the clients that we work with, that we have our best success, is on a multi-year, where we really put in a people operating system and a people operating process. And then you have a process for like bringing on new hires. As you bring on new hires, you actually teach them this process, right? Because the problem is like everybody's bringing their own culture into your organization, and then you think your dysfunction is functional.
Mm-hmm.
Best example is I've been married 34 years, and we got married when we were 21, which is way too young to get married. But anyways, this is what we did. In first year of marriage, I brought my wife to a family reunion, and I remember she brought me in the back room, and she goes, after about an hour, she goes, "Dennis, are you guys crazy?" And I was like, "What? What's the problem?" Right? Because Alan, I come from the kind of family that has three rules: he who yells the loudest wins, he who sustains the yelling the longest wins, and number three, the most important rule: the goal is to always win. And I thought that was normal. I thought that was functional. And then I went to my wife's family and I went, oh, yeah, we're not so functional, right? It's like, but I was raised in it. And so it's really, as you onboard people and bring people into your teams and your culture, it's like you got to train culture, right? Because in a lot of times people think their dysfunction is functional, and they just don't know.
Okay. Um, so stepping back from the drama free, and that sounds like a key central part of what you do. What are other gaps that you see leaders missing as a leader? What are some critical skill areas, knowledge areas that you help leaders address?
I think things like, really strategic thinking, being able to step back and getting out of the weeds. We run a program called the Leadership Roundtable, where people come to Greenville, South Carolina once a quarter, and they're able to step out of the weeds and really think strategically about their organization and about their work. So that they can really make the right decisions. And a lot of times, we just don't take time. So just actually carving time to strategically think is huge, because there's so much in the weeds. And so I think even like it's why we created the roundtable, right? Is that leaders need an opportunity to get away. And we do it every quarter. And we've had people doing this for like 7 or 8 years with us, because they say, hey, you know what? the biggest gift of the roundtable is I get away for a day once a quarter, and I work on the team and on the organization instead of just in the organization. So I think strategic thinking is huge.
Yep. Yeah, and having the time and space to do it. So I can see where that roundtable kind of gives
Well,
people a place
well,
to go and think.
well,
Yeah.
yeah. In the thing, I just want to challenge maybe all the listeners. If you don't feel like you have time, that's when you have to make time,
Yep.
right? Oh, I just don't have time. It's like, well, if I complain about time, Alan, guess what? I'm just the victim. Oh yeah, Dennis doesn't have enough time. Yeah, poor Dennis doesn't have. And at the end of the day, it's like I have to make the time. I have to figure out how to make the time instead of become the victim of the time.
Okay. So we're just about out of time, but you've
Oh,
developed a
this has
lot
been
of
fun.
different elements in your time here. What do you see? Anything new and different coming up in the next few years?
Oh gosh, Alan, if I knew that, I would be a billionaire. Okay. If I knew was, I think what's going to continue to happen is the rate of change is going to continue to accelerate. Right. I know we're in a time where AI is like, the buzz, and we've been using it great. And, who knows what the buzz is going to be 6 months from now, but it's going to be something. And the ability to navigate change and navigate it quickly and then navigate it correctly. Right. Because there's certain things you jump into all in, and 6 months later, you're like, yeah, it's not, it's not everything that it, was set up to be. It's why, like, even like with a lot of associations that we do a lot of keynote speaking, and it's this whole idea of like, how do you lead through that change? So I think the thing that's coming up is more and more change and faster change.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah. And so just learning how to navigate that. And what's funny is you even talk about change, Alan. It's like change is totally emotional. It's not logical, right? I don't want to change. Is it a logical reason? Heck no, it's an emotional reason.
Mhm.
Right? It's like, it's uncomfortable. It's uncertain. I'm kind of afraid of what's going to happen. It's an unknown. Those are all emotional things. None of them are logical. And I think the key thing for leaders that I did want to leave people with is that stop trying to solve an emotional issue with logic. It doesn't work. Many times that's what we do. We logically try to like hammer people with information. And man, if information were enough, like, hey, there wouldn't be any problems in the world if all we need was information. And
Right.
so, yeah, I think just the rate of change just continues to accelerate.
And I think that's great advice for new trainers coming in, is
Yeah,
that you may have your system planned and know what you want to do, but as I look back over 30 years, things shifted a lot, and I learned to surf with it and go with it, and
yeah,
ended
Alan,
up somewhere new each time.
yeah. I mean, just think about like the event of this right here of like podcasting, right? It's
Right.
like because we've been in this work for over 20 years too, right? So like I feel like you and I are a little bit of old timers, right? But it's like when you think about what it was 20 years ago, I mean, the technology, and it's just going to get, it's just going to continue to speed up. So, you know, just being able to just navigate sort of like those different seasons and those kinds. And it's why. So, can we give a free gift?
Sure.
Yeah. So we'd enjoy if you're listening and you like this information. You're like, oh my god, we created what we call the Focus Team 5-day challenge. Okay, so the results focus 5-day challenge. So if you just go to resultsfocusteam.com, and Alan's going to put just that
That'll be in the
link,
link. Yep.
be in the link in the show notes, but it's resultsfocusteam.com. And what you're going to get is you're going to get for the next 5 days, 5 quick 30-second videos about what to do with overwhelm. How do you create a sense of urgency inside of your team? How do you hold people accountable? 5 quick strategies. And listen, please don't go to our website. I think they have it on there for $100. But I just want to, Alan, for your group, we're just going to do it no cost. Just go to
Great.
resultsfocusteam.com, and it's going to be our free gift to you, and hope it is a blessing.
Well, thanks so much, Dennis. And
Yep.
That's it for today's episode of Lead, Learn, and Connect. So a huge thank you to Dennis McIntee for sharing great insights into his approach to training and coaching. If you found this helpful, be sure to subscribe, share it with a colleague, and leave a review. You can find out more about Dennis's work and the link to the free gift he just offered in the show notes. And if you're ready to strengthen how you teach or coach communication, click in the show notes to our website to learn more about the TEAM model of communication. And be sure to follow us on LinkedIn or other social media. Until next time, keep leading with intention, keep learning, and keep connecting. Thanks for listening.